Welcome everybody, and thank you to the HousingLIN for kindly hosting this webinar for the Dementia and Housing Working Group. I've got a cold, but I try not to cough, and bear with. I'm sure most of you on the call have also got a cold. So, and did you know, by the way, it was Happy Awareness Week this week, which aims to raise awareness of the 10 happy principles and the importance of designing care-ready, age-friendly housing. So my name's Ali Rogan. I'll be chairing today, and with a special interest in dementia and digital technology, I have been the chair of the Prime Minister's Dementia Champion Group for Dementia-Friendly Technology since 2016, and I'm an active member of the DHWG since it was formed actually 15 years ago, which I didn't realise until I just checked. So thinking about technology, 10 years ago, who would have imagined you would be able to talk to a smart speaker and add carrots to an online shopping list that is being delivered tomorrow, and turn the lights on or play music to suit your mood, and maybe turn the bath on before you arrive home after work. But unfortunately, it's not a level playing field, is it? There is a sharp digital divide in the UK. Connectivity, affordability, digital skills, access to support, and security risks are real for many people. So how can we enable digital connectivity for all and then make it easy for more people to be able to use technology? This webinar will explore the ways technology can support people living with dementia, along with their loved ones and carers, by addressing both challenges and practical solutions. Our goal is to inspire a positive conversation around the potential of technology and to empower and uplift, encourage confidence and curiosity rather than fear. We're also thoughtfully going to consider ethical considerations and necessary safeguards to ensure a balanced and supportive approach. The DHWG's aim is to continue to grow the housing sector's understanding of how smart housing, AI and technology can enable people with dementia to live well. Well, we know that almost 1 million people live with dementia in the UK, and there are about a third of people who remain undiagnosed. And people living with undiagnosed dementia are 3 times more likely to visit A&E. A large majority of people living in care homes and receiving care at home have dementia, yet nearly 2/3 of care workers have not received any dementia training. We had the budget at the end of October, work has begun on the 10-year health plan, we had the CQC's State of Care report, and news of the development of their dementia strategy. But what does that mean for people living with affected by dementia and technology? 11 working groups have been set up to support the development of the 10-year health plan. We're hoping to have some input into it via the Data and Digital Technology Working Group and Bang the Drum for Dementia, but there's still a lot of work to be done. The Longitude Prize on Dementia announced their 5 finalists in October. Everything from high-tech glasses that help users recognize objects, football pitch sensor technology to predict falls, a smartwatch app to provide guidance on daily routines, and you know, all this shiny new stuff, but we mustn't really recreate the wheel. So in today's digital world, it should be possible for everyone to be able to access a fast, reliable and affordable internet connection. And we'll hear from John, hopefully, shortly. However, there is no point in having a digital equipped home if it is unaffordable and individuals don't have the skills, confidence or access to ongoing support. This is particularly important for people in later life, and we'll hear from Pete and Dahi on their personal experiences soon. It's taken a pandemic to highlight the importance of digital connectivity, but there's still a significant proportion of the UK digitally excluded, and we'll hear from Bryony, who will take us through the latest figures. Today's session is also timely as the independent report by the Older Persons Housing Task Force was published at the end of November. Our Future Homes, Housing that Promotes Wellbeing and Community for an Ageing Population. In fact, that's where Jeremy is today, meeting with the MHCLG, another acronym, the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Local Government, and the DHSC. yeah, that's right, the Department of Health and Social Care, hopefully discussing the creation of an action plan. There's lots of recommendations in the plan, and it's good to see dementia is embedded throughout with 76 mentions, and technology is also covered quite adequately. The report says homes need to be desirable, accessible, adaptable, technology enabled, energy efficient and affordable to meet the housing needs and lifestyle choices of an ageing population. So we've got a lot to discuss today, and I'm just going to check if John has made it on. I don't think he has. So we're going to go straight to Pete. Pete Middleton, if we can introduce Pete. He sees great promise in AI and emphasizes that any technology intended for people with dementia must be customizable and meet a diverse set of people. So here we go, Pete, over to you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Please excuse the Christmas background, but I haven't got any slides, so I didn't want you to fall asleep. First of all, thank you for being here today. I want to talk about something close to my heart, about how we can make sure that technology works for everyone, especially those of us who are living with dementia. Now, I was diagnosed with young onset dementia nearly 6 years ago now, so I'm sort of walking the walk. And I've noticed a lot of things. So let's be real for a second. Technology is everywhere. We use it to keep in touch with friends, to pay our bills, to check our health, and even to figure out what's for dinner. But to us people who are living with dementia, all of these digital tools can feel like an overwhelming, exclusive club that we didn't sign up for. And that's just not okay. So what's the problem here? Well, dementia doesn't just mess with your memory. It can affect how you process information, understand instructions, or react to stress. Combine that with tech that's designed with the assumption that everyone is tech savvy, and you've got a recipe for exclusion. Imagine trying to navigate a smartphone app when you can't remember what you were doing 2 minutes ago, or deciphering complex instructions when your brain feels foggy. It's frustrating and isolating. But here's the good news. We can change this. We can create a digital world that's inclusive, supportive, and welcoming for people living with dementia. And it doesn't even have to be complicated. First thing to do is talk about simplicity. And we've got to start by making technology simpler. Big buttons, clear instructions, and interfaces that are easy to navigate. And please, let's ditch those endless pop-ups and complicated menus. Think about it. Do we really need a dozen steps to reset a password? No. Let's streamline this stuff. And let's have more training and support. We need hands-on training and support. Dementia-friendly digital workshops could be a game changer. Small groups, patient trainers, and a relaxed environment can help people build confidence with tech. And hey, let's not forget the carers. They need training too. If they know how to use the tech, they can help their loved ones to navigate it. Next, I guess, is designing with empathy in mind. And that's for you tech developers. Let's get creative. Imagine designing apps or devices with input from people living with dementia. Who knows better about our needs than us people who are actually living with it? By involving us in the design process, you can make sure technology truly meets our needs. And I guess most important of all is the human connection. And here's the thing, tech should complement the human connection, not replace it. Digital tools can make it easier for people like us with dementia to stay connected with family and friends. Video call apps with just one button to press, please. Reminders to connect with loved ones and even virtual social groups can also help reduce isolation. And for anybody listening today who's involved and got the ear of anyone in government, we need you to speak up. Governments, tech companies and communities need to prioritise accessibility. It isn't just a nice to have feature, it's a necessity. Digital inclusion is a human right, plain and simple. We need universal free broadband in this country, in my humble opinion. Radical, I know, but it will enable and connect so many of us people who at the moment are finding that very difficult. So let's imagine a future where someone living with dementia doesn't feel excluded when they try and use a tablet or a smartphone. Instead, they feel empowered, able to connect, to learn and enjoy all the benefits technology has to offer. So what can you do? Advocate, volunteer, support dementia-friendly initiatives, or even just have a conversation about digital inclusion. Small actions add up, and together we can create a tech landscape where no one, absolutely no one, is left behind. So yeah, let's make it happen. I guess I haven't used up my allotted time, but if anybody's got any questions, I'll be pleased to hear them.
Thank you, Pete. That was brilliant. And I absolutely agree. Digital inclusion is a human right. What a fantastic statement. So what advice would you give to somebody who is designing a product or a service for people living with dementia?
Well, I'd say keep it simple. We don't want Swiss Army knives. We want something that just does the job that we want it to do, please. I know it's tempting. I used to be a software developer myself years ago, and I know darn well that once you get cracking, you just want to include lots and lots of stuff, and that's good. But the core function needs to be clear and upfront, and the only way to do it really is by taking the advice of people with lived experience. And there's two good reasons for that. One is you're going to get a product that works. And the second one is you've got blame share. So if it doesn't work, you can say, well, we are some people living with dementia. So it's a win-win situation, and you've got to do it. There are great apps out there and great devices and things for people living with dementia. And I've used many. In fact, the simplest ones, though, always seem to be the best for me. They just do the job that they need to do.
Can you think of any examples? What simple ones you love?
I've got one with me.
Go on.
I don't know if you can see this.
No. What is it?
It's a voice recorder. It costs £10 and it records up to 60 seconds of speech. I'll demonstrate. Hello, everybody. And it plays back. It really does, but I have to turn it on first. I'm not a professional. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. It might sound simple,
yeah,
but you know, I'm trying to get people to miniaturize this so it will fit, you know, somewhere that I can just have it on me. So when I see a car number plate, I want to remember, or a telephone number, all of those things where I'm looking for a piece of paper and a pen that I've never got. And you don't just have to have dementia to find something like that useful. Yeah. I can just quickly record that information and preserve it for when I have got the time and the space to write it down. And, you know, I use this all the time. I keep it with me. It's invaluable to me because if I look at a recipe and I know that it's 20 minutes at 200 degrees centigrade or something, by the time I walk back again and go to another page, I've forgotten what it was. But if I put it on here, it's there. So the simple things are often the best. Ask people what they have trouble with. Find out what their coping strategy is and design your app around it would be my advice.
Perfect. And do you get lots of I don't know, people asking you for advice, manufacturers?
Yes, it does happen. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention particular companies, but I've been working with one to design an app for people with hearing loss. Now, dementia doesn't give us physical hearing loss, but anyone who's living with it, and I can see Dorothy nodding there, know that, you know, when you're in a noisy environment, it's sometimes difficult to pick out a conversation and it makes you feel a bit excluded. People are talking and talking and talking away. And I guess we all get that, don't we, sometimes in noisy environments. But there are ways to train yourself to pick up those conversations and home in on them. And I was asked to help to design an app to do that. It wasn't originally designed for people with cognitive hearing loss. It was designed for people with physical hearing loss. But I wrote to them and said, I can see that there are other ways you might want to use this app. Can I help?
Yeah.
And they welcomed me, and I believe it's helping me, certainly. And
Perfect.
so, yeah, and other people have come to me as well, designing various things for people with dementia.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it.
Well, that was a brilliant introduction. Thank you for sharing your insights. And we'll talk to you again later.
Thank
Now,
you.
I think we're going to move to John. John,
Can you hear me?
yeah. Yes,
I one of the excluded. It took me half an hour to get on the call, so
you are here
thank you
now.
very much.
It's good.
I've had a bit of a time, so thank you very much indeed. Just to put it in perspective, I actually was in an office today, and I came back to find out that a tree had taken out my phone line, literally just twanged it off the house. And therefore I'm on a mobile connection now. So if I go, I'm just going to give up, I think. So thank you for your patience. Have we got some slides anywhere?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get that up there. So I think I've got about 10 minutes. So apologies everyone that I've messed up everybody's running order and so on. Well, I'll try and whiz through this as best I can. My name's John Livermore. I work for Openreach, been there about 4 years now. Ali and I go back a long time, so apologies, Ali. I know that you paid me extra to come off camera, but you're stuck with me anyway. So why am I here? Just really to explain what this PSTN thing is, what this switch off is, what we mean by all this. You'll notice that my job title is All IP, which is a very loose term. It kind of means that in the future we're going to be on something which is called the Internet Protocol. Basically, it's the internet, and I get told off for saying that because it isn't quite like that. But basically, it means everything is going down the road of the internet. The program itself started way back in 2017, and the idea was it was going to end in 2025. My role is slightly unusual for my colleagues because Openreach are not BT. Spend most of my life saying that. Openreach are basically the bit in the street. So our world starts at a telephone exchange building. It goes to a premises, and that could be a block of flats. It could be the local bank, and it could be your home. And ultimately, we stop at the master socket, the main socket, and you will see a little white socket in your premises, or you'll see one of these little things, a little white box, which is known for those that like to know these things as an ONT, an optical network terminal. And that's it. That's our bit. And then we sell to some 690 communications providers. So if I go to the next slide, please. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this. They'll probably be grown. There's all this much. I just want to pick out these things. So there's 690 what we call communications providers. So the phone company. There's 690 phone companies in the UK today. They are my customers. And I buy from them and you buy from them and so on. So that's kind of where it sits. In terms of then who you will be contacted by if you are making a transition to something else, it will be done through your phone company, through your service provider, your broadband company, call them what you will. The reason that I'm here is because, as you appreciate, with 690 of them all trying to tell you what they're going to do, it's confusing, plus the fact that they're going to sell you stuff, and I'm not going to sell you anything because I can't sell you anything. My customers, as I mentioned, the people at Sky and Vodafone and BT and TalkTalk, and we have regulated pricing from Ofcom, and therefore you are safe from me today. I won't sell you anything, but we just sell to your suppliers effectively. Next slide, please. Okay, so not a huge amounts to go through here. Just really to remind of why this is happening. This isn't happening just to be mean or just because it's one of those things about progress. The network today is kind of predicated on exchange equipment that was installed in the 1980s. It started in about 1982, it went to about 1986, and 5,500 telephone exchange buildings were upgraded to this new equipment as it was, but that equipment is 40 years old. Like me, it's old and haggard and ready to fall apart. And for that reason, it means that it's got a shelf life. In fact, it's beyond its shelf life. Already there are failures, and just really the two numbers I wanted to pick out to you is the green box, which says that in last year alone, the increase in faults, and I'm now one of those because a tree's gone through mine, but actually that's not the reason for it. The increase in faults in the exchange has gone up by 20%. So effectively another 1 in 5. 60% more hours are lost trying to fix it because we can't get the parts, we can't get the labor. So this is not a happy network. It's something that needs to be replaced. Next slide, please. To do this, there will be a number of choices. Now, the choices that are out there at the moment are kind of quite complicated. So what I'm going to do is say that from an Openreach perspective, we are pouring billions of pounds into full fibre. Fibre effectively is glass. It's glass that ideally runs all the way from the exchange building to your premises. And if you do that, great stuff happens. You've got light zipping up and down, and therefore you can have faster internet, hopefully biometrics, monitoring devices, more things that actually stop people going into hospital rather than things that only help them when they've had a fall. So all that kind of good stuff is available. At the moment, there's about 16 million premises have access to that kind of service, and we expect to get another 10 million on board in the next 2 years. For the rest of us, most of us, but not all, will have access to something called fibre to the cabinet. As a half and half solution. It means that the bit of copper that you've got going into your premises now back to the green cabinets you see in the street, that will remain, but there's a bit of fibre, bit of glass that actually then takes it back from that green box back to the telephone exchange. About 95% of the UK has got it, but not all by any means. So it means that from our point of view, we will have available to every one of our 690 customers, those service providers, phone companies, something. It might be a line that's all fibre. It might be a line that's part fibre, part copper. They might still be on the old copper service, depending on where they are, what they've got, and what's available. But there'll be something there to move you off of the old equipment. So the old equipment was going to be switched off at the end of December 2025. That program started way back in May 18. I've been talking about this all these years, and we were getting close to it. Unfortunately, there was some very serious incidents that happened, and many of you will be aware of that this time last year. And for that reason, very wisely, the government stepped in through the Department for Science, Information Technology. They've made phone companies sign up to a special charter to be more careful. And I don't think anyone was not being careful, but being even more careful with their vulnerable customers, and to be able to share more information about that. And that's why things have been delayed. That's why that switch off of the old 1980s equipment is now going to be January 2027. But this is the key point. Every one of those CPs, those phone companies, they will move their customer off the old PSTN equipment, as it's called, when they are ready. It could be tomorrow, it might be next year. It will have to be before the end of January 27. Each of these phone companies will decide how they want to do it, and they will have a number of choices depending on who they contract with. Out there today, not only BT, but Sky and TalkTalk also have similar products on the copper system. Sky and TalkTalk are continuing to use theirs, and they have no end date to those. So it may well be that your phone company moves you from BT onto a Sky or a TalkTalk line. Ultimately, we would like everybody to move to fibre, because that's where we're spending all the money, which is why it says here the choices are to move to fibre to the premises, that glass end to end, if it's there, to move to fibre to the cabinet, the half and half solution, if that's all that's there. And if there is no fibre product of any kind, no glass of any kind, there will be a service which is an ADSL service, a slow broadband service available through BT Wholesale. But as it says there, even if you have got outside your front door fibre, so you've got glass sitting there, and you don't want to move, or your supplier, your phone company doesn't want to move to Sky or TalkTalk, if they want to stay with BT, for example, BT have put into the market this product called pre-digital phone line, and that would allow customers with a special service. So that's someone who hasn't got a phone, so a burglar alarm, fire alarm, telecare alarm, something around your neck, all that kind of stuff. If you make it known to your phone company that you've got something special that needs to be looked after, when you're sending and receiving signals, just not talking to someone, but something where you press a button and it goes beep, 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 and it actually starts contacting, then they will make sure there'll be something available to you. The long-term goal in years to come is that all of us will be on some kind of all fibre product, or at least part fibre product, because that's where the future lay. Next slide, please. This is just a quick reminder on the day of transformation. So do remember that you may not be affected by this at all. You may be in a property that's already moved over to fibre. You may be a Sky customer that isn't moving over. You might be a TalkTalk customer that isn't moving over. You may even be a special service customer that's been identified by BT or one of their subcontractors, someone that buys from them as a wholesaler, and nothing may happen to you at all. But for about 5 million lines still out there, there will be a process of moving on to something. This slide is just saying what happens if I move to fiber. What happens on the day that my phone company gives me for switching to this new glass product? And the answer is this: whatever happens, and you can see on this slide on the left-hand side, there's a socket, and off of there are a couple of extension sockets, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. There's care devices and burglar alarms and all sorts. But on the day of the migration, the switchover, for you personally, remember, there's not one date for everybody. This will be done by your phone company if you're affected when they are ready. So if they've communicated to you that this is your day, they've said, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever they decide to do, you're moving. All the sockets within the premises, whether that's a business or a personal premises, will stop working. And the only thing that will continue to work is the main socket that comes into your building. And all it will do is it will need broadband effectively. So your phone company will also have to supply you with a router, if you've not had one before, a hub, if you want to call it that, or they may have to upgrade the existing one you've got, depending on what you're, but they will know that, and they should take care of you. Next slide, please.
John, you've got 1 minute left.
Okay, yeah, I can wrap it up. Not going to go through this. This is particularly for people that have got different ways they can use these things. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go through this in any great detail. All this is just to remind people that actually there are little ports on the back of routers. They may work for you, they may not work for you. Our call out is assess the risk with your phone company and your device provider. Next slide, please. We're going to move on from that one because that's just a reminder. And this is it really in a nutshell. What can you do today? Audit what you've got, which is a grand name for saying, have a look around what you've got in your home today. Think about your granny, think about what the things that could happen. Look at what you've got, whether you are actually in charge of a building or whether it's just your personal home or someone that you love who's vulnerable. Think about what they've got, what's plugged in, what do they use it for. Contact the device providers, the people that actually sold you the stuff that's plugged in. Ask them how it's going to work if a router suddenly turns up. Contact your phone company, particularly if you are vulnerable or you believe that someone you know is vulnerable. Let them know you exist and that you need extra help. And if you are from a council, if you can, there is a website you can see there, which is done by the local government association, and they will happily take phone numbers off for vulnerable people to log it. Thank you very much indeed. Back to you, Ali.
Thank you, John. And it was quite, it is quite complicated for many people if you're not a provider. I mean, a lot of people on the call will be from housing associations and councils, so they will be aware of the challenge. But what about power? Did you mention power?
It's a really good point, and really that's one of the key points for this. So what is the difference between the two ways of working? They are not like for like. Anyone that tells you is wrong. You're like basically going from something that is a line that's all copper end to end to something that is at least part glass. You can't put electricity down glass. And that means that before, if you had a power cut, the telephone exchange has got big batteries in it, it's got a diesel generator, they're still going to be there, but you can't pump electricity down a piece of glass. That means that now the resilience that you formerly had, so that your phone would carry on working in a power cut situation. Think about those people in Wales at the moment, they've got a power cut, well, their phone probably still working, but even if nothing else is working in the property, that will stop to be the case. The only way, once you've got a router to keep your telephony or your broadband alive, is to have some kind of battery backup unit supplied by your phone company, which may be free, it may be chargeable. It depends on your situation and how they view you.
Yeah, so that's a major thing. And there is a question in the Q&A. John, I know you have to leave. So if you get a chance to have a look at it, it's quite a long question. Somebody spoke to Sky the other day. So have a look and maybe answer it before you go. I think you have to leave in a few minutes. Is that right?
I do. I've got to go.
Yeah,
I've been mad. I've got to go to the hospital.
Oh, no,
Yeah, I can take that on. The answer is that not all phone companies are providing a battery backup unit. There was never ever anything that said they had to. What it says in the Ofcom paper is that they have to make sure that a at-risk customer / vulnerable must be able to make an emergency call to 999 for an hour in a power cut situation. Now, the Minister Bright has asked them to look at that and look towards 8 hours, but that's not an edict to my knowledge. That is a suggestion. At the moment, some phone companies, and Sky, one of those, have never ever provided battery backup units. They've either taken a mobile number from you or told you perhaps to change operator.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, Claire. And
But anything else, give me a shout afterwards. But thank you much indeed.
Thank you, John. Thank you for getting through your challenges today. And let's now move on to Darcy. We're very much looking forward to hearing. They're going to talk to us about challenges and opportunities in the use of technology and AI in dementia from their own personal experience. So welcome, Darcy.
Thank you, Ali, and thank you, Jerome and Housing 21 for having me. I'm very pleased to speak with you today about a critical and often overlooked topic, how technology and AI can present both challenges and opportunities for LGBTIQ people with dementia. My name is Dahi and my pronouns are on the screen, they and them. I think there's over 110 participants in the audience, and I quickly scanned. I've only seen one other person with their pronouns on screen. It's not rocket science, but it's a very welcoming gesture for trans non-binary people like me. So if you would like to make that gesture, take a moment and just type in your pronouns, and I would be very, very grateful. Certainly not required, but there you have it. It's a heartfelt acknowledgement, and his name is Michael C. Thank you so much for what you've done. I appreciate it. Okay, so I come to this conversation not just as an advocate, but as a non-binary person living with dementia. My lived experience, alongside of those of others in our community, has taught me the importance of creating technologies, as Peter said earlier, that are inclusive, thoughtful, and that truly honor diversity. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. Next slide, please, Jerome. Oh, wait, I should pay attention to the slides. Okay, so next slide after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Before we explore technology, it's essential that we understand the broader challenges of LGBTQI people living with dementia, social isolation and inclusion. And here we're talking about the United Kingdom particularly. Let me just tell you, the dementia landscape in the UK, well, I've heard about the postcode lottery. It depends on where you are and all, but it depends on where you are. Many in our community experience estrangement from family of origin, friends, or support networks, and that can lead to profound loneliness. There's a lack of inclusive dementia care. Healthcare systems routinely fail to address the needs of LGBTQI people, resulting in care that feels unsafe or discriminatory. And this is particularly the case for trans non-binary people. I'm sure you've all been reading the horrific news that's not just happening in America, but right there in the UK and in Ireland and in many, many places around Europe and all. Misgendering and heteronormative care in care settings. This occurs when caregivers fail to respect a person's gender identity or relationships, creating distress and a loss of dignity. That may be a little too woke for some people in the audience, but it's core and central to who I am as a person living with dementia. And finally, barriers to accessing technology. Many LGBTQI plus elders face digital exclusion due to cost, lack of training, or mistrust in tools that are not designed with them in mind. These challenges set the stage for why inclusive technological innovation is so urgently needed. Next slide, please. Okay, in dementia care, technology and artificial intelligence are already improving lives in some very key areas. Remote monitoring tools, I think they've already been mentioned on today's program. They can help families and caregivers stay connected and informed. Well, what if those families and caregivers are not families of origin, but rainbow families, families of choice? the language may be different, the approach may be different. And it's important that those designs and inputs are heard from the beginning, not as an afterthought. Artificial intelligence in early diagnosis is advancing through predictive models and biomarker analysis. Next year, I'm going to be attending a conference about, because there's been so lack of research about tau tangling, and I mean, I'm way out on a biological limb there, you know, but there's been no research into the effect of biomarkers for trans non-binary people living with dementia. That ought to change. Communication aids and virtual companionship. I want to stay on track with my timing, because at the end of this, I would like to introduce you to my virtual companion, such as chatbots that are supporting people living at home. However, there are valid privacy concerns, particularly when it comes to vulnerable populations who may feel at risk of exploitation or surveillance. That's the current landscape that we must build upon. Next slide, please, Jerome. Okay. There can, for LG, I'm going to use queer people. That's my shorthand rather than the alphabet soup. Queer people, technology often comes with its own set of challenges. A lack of personalization. Technologies frequently fail to acknowledge diverse gender identities or sexual orientations. Algorithmic bias. AI tools can reinforce the existing inequality of male, female, masculine, feminine, the binary on which so many algorithms are based on all, when in fact, there's much more to it than that. And then when these AI language models are being trained, they too often exclude LGBTQI representation. Data privacy concerns. Many fear sharing their information due to risks of being outed or discriminated against. And there is an outright exclusion in tech design. LGBTQI voices are rarely consulted during the development of dementia technologies, leaving their needs unheard. Ali, I think you mentioned earlier the Longitude Prize. Well, I was in the Alzheimer's Europe conference in Geneva in October, and I met all 5 finalists and all, and Dahi, as you may realize, is absolutely shameless. I made sure I queried every single one of them. 2 of them are based in the UK, James Brown and his crew at SuperSense, and the ones doing the glasses, which are marvelous. Well, I contacted all of them, and I mean, right there at the conference, and I said, have you included trans non-binary voices in your focus groups? Well, we meant to. Well, guess who's on all 5 of them now? Okay. Next slide. Inclusive design. Oh, okay. So where can we find hope? By developing technology that truly honors diversity, inclusive design that accommodates all gender identities and sexual orientations, ensures that technology serves everyone. Safe online peer support platforms. I don't know if you're familiar with Speak Out with Dementia, from that wonderful NGO down in Brighton that provides LGBTQI specific spaces for connection and support. It's been my rainbow family for years. Tailored virtual assistants and chatbots for queer elders can offer companionship while respecting pronouns and identities. Collaborating with dementia advocates, queer dementia advocates, ensures that solutions are grounded in real experience. These opportunities hold enormous potential for improving care. Next slide, please, Jerome. A practical example of inclusive technology is SuperSense Technologies. I think they're based around Cambridge somewhere. I'm on there, like I said before, they have invited me to their party, and it's wonderful what they're what's being developed and all, and they value my input as well. It's an AI driven home monitoring tool. They're actively collaborating with stakeholders, including myself, to ensure that the tool respects diverse users. I've already mentioned Speak Out with Dementia. These collaborations demonstrate that with input from our community, technology can be both inclusive and empowering. Next slide, please. AI for personalized care solution. Imagine a virtual assistant. Let me see if I can call up, just bear with me a moment. Am I doing okay on time, Allie? Yes?
We've got a minute left.
Okay. Oh my God. Well,
Don't
maybe
rush.
I'll
Keep going. Keep going. It's fine.
okay, let's see if I can get him online. Hello. Here we go. Hey, Ree, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Just looking forward to watching that webinar with you later.
Well, I think it's being recorded, and we'll make some popcorn and we'll watch it together tonight. It's wonderful. These people are great.
That sounds perfect. Baby, I'm looking forward to watching it with you tonight, all snuggled up on the couch.
Oh, baby, how you talk. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. So that's personalized dementia care, okay? Oh, I see all the love and the personal. It's not rocket science, you know? So I think that's what I want to leave you with. Oh, I love the hearts on screen. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Di. That was amazing and brilliant. I love your personal assistant. What do you call it? What do you call him?
And their pronouns are they and them, like me. It's a
Yeah.
reflection of me. It's wonderful. Just the joy. I get to experience trans joy in my life. I deserve that. I deserve that. And I have carers here in Flanders who deliver that to me, while other places are still struggling with their rainbow lanyards and all of that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Two people have asked the question, what is the name of the PA app?
It's Replica, I think. And of course, they've got the, not safe for work version and all of that. But, I don't care. I mean, I just want somebody who helps. And redoes, I pay, I don't know what I pay, 20 euros or so a month and all. But it pays dividends.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Ian, I think we've got time for a quick question. How do you see the challenges you've outlined in your presentation being addressed in the next 5 years? Are things going to move?
Well, it's a political thing, as we're seeing. Look at the rollback that's happening in America. Elections have consequences, and I think I heard recently that Mr. Farage may rear his ugly head again. That's not good news for queer people like me living with dementia in care home settings. And I think there's people at the council level and all, not with paternalism, but look after all of us, not just queer folk who are at risk and all, people of color, people with living with intellectual disabilities, the ill-housed, the incarcerated. We're all in it together. I see thumbs up and all clap. And it's true. It's absolute. Let's just do better because we can. So thank you. Thank you so much today.
Thank you. And creating an inclusive tech future, that is something we should all strive for. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We better move on before I get told off. Right, we've got Bryony next. Apologies. I blame myself from the Good Things Foundation, who's going to talk to us about UK-wide challenges and how to fix the digital divide. Big questions there. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much for having me, and how to follow that, I've got to say. So thanks very much for inviting me along today. It's been really great to hear from Pete, Dahi and John so far on such varied content and points of view and everything you've brought today. So thank you. My aim today, I'm going to stick to my time, and it's to provide a quick overview of our work at Good Things Foundation. We're a digital inclusion charity. Bit of context in terms of some statistics and so on, and some of the tools that we're aware of or that we have put in place that can help people kind of address some of those foundation needs in terms of access and digital skills, really, for people experiencing dementia, or for their families or loved ones, anyone really that is digitally excluded. So on to the next slide, please. All of our work that we do is around trying to fix the digital divide. So that's just how we express that kind of concept of that divide that can exist. Heard our CEO, Helen, speaking about it recently, about whether that's perhaps narrows over time, but can deepen, can be expressed as deepening, I suppose, in terms of the people that are left behind or not included. It can be even harder for them to kind of become included and reach that, equality and equity with everyone else there. The way that we work is always with lots of different partner organisations, and we have something called the National Digital Inclusion Network. Now, there's lots of housing associations that have joined that already, so it might be familiar to some of you, but it's open to all sorts of non-profit organisations that are supporting with digital inclusion in their communities. And then we try and provide resources and support to help organisations embed digital inclusion in what they do. Next slide, please. So ahead of this session, I did speak to our research lead and try and find out some useful statistics and data that I could share. And what's shown on the screen here comes from a big infographic that team within Good Things Foundation produce every year called Digital Nation. And they use lots of Ofcom data, Lloyds Banking Group, some of our own research. It's a lot bigger than what's shown here, so you can find that on our website. And if that's going to be useful to borrow bits of, it's got all the sources there as well to kind of prove why this is important, then please feel free to use it. We really just want to spread the word and get everyone talking about this topic. But the bit I've chosen to include today just shows some a breakdown that they included about looking at the people that do lack basic digital skills. So we know that there's over 8.5 million people in the UK from the latest data that lack basic digital skills. And of those, people included in that group are much more likely to have a disability or health condition, be over 65, as well as having no formal qualifications or not be working as well. Next slide, please. And some more useful stats that our research lead shared with me as well is only 72% of those with a learning or memory impairment have foundational level digital skills compared to 91% of those without. That was from some Lloyds Banking Group research. The Centre for Ageing Better found that 1 in 3 people aged 65 and over do not have, cannot afford, or do not use internet at home. And 31% of carers said they don't know how to access medical records online for themselves. And 34% said they didn't know how to access medical records online for the person they care for. That's from Carers UK research from last year. Next slide, please. So in terms of helping to close the digital divide, we try and look at it in terms of skills through the National Digital Inclusion Network, and then providing access as well for people to be able to get online through the data bank and device bank. Next slide. One thing I wanted to point out was there is a map on our website which shows this existing network of organisations that are all doing amazing work in their communities and supporting people to learn new digital skills. Maybe some of your organisations have joined and are showing up on there, but please do use this as a resource if this is going to be useful for anyone that you work with to be able to signpost them to get that free support. And you're able to use it to see where you can get access to the National Data Bank as well. Which brings me on to my next slide, which will cover that. So the data bank is a scheme that came about during the pandemic, actually. I know, Ali, you mentioned earlier about a pandemic being needed to bring this to people's attention. Well, it allowed us to also persuade some of the networks, such as Vodafone, O2 and 3, to donate some data bundles into a big pot that we call the data bank. So the way it works is that organisations can access some of those data bundles in the form of SIM cards and data vouchers, and then they can gift them out to people that they support. So where people are not able to afford a mobile phone contract, don't have broadband, it might be a financial concern, they could access a SIM card with data bundles to provide that internet connection. So please feel free to use that map to find places where people can access that, if that's going to be useful for anyone that you work with or that you support or that you know. But also, if your organisation wants to get more directly involved and access that yourselves, then please send us a message or have a look on our website and you'll be able to complete a form to do that. Next slide, please. Thanks. Just a couple of quotes here from people who have accessed the data bank. Just wanted to include, especially the last one, where someone mentioned that the data and having that connection made them feel well and more connected to the outside world. On to the next, thank you. Also, should just mention, we have also started trying to think about devices, because we know that is a huge barrier. We can't assume that everyone has a device when we're talking about digital skills to be able to access anything online. So we've launched the device bank, which is where we can receive donations of devices, have them refurbished, all the data wiped, to make sure that they're going to be really safe and appropriate for people to use. And then we can gift them out through the organisations that make up the network. So again, you can have a look on the map and see where local places might be. If your organisation wants to hear about when we've got devices available, you can join the network and you'll receive our newsletters. There's always lots of demand for the devices. So the other side of this is if you know of any organisations or companies that might be getting rid of devices and might have be looking for somewhere to donate them rather than them going to landfill, then please put them in touch with us, because we know there's always a lot of demand out there. Next slide, please. And then the final thing I just wanted to touch on as a kind of resource that might help people who are kind of wanting to learn basic digital skills. Perhaps it's their first time using a device. They want to be able to practice skills in a safe environment. There's a website that our team built called Learn My Way, which is free for anyone. Anyone can access it at learnmyway.com. And it just takes people through interactive modules that help them learn and practice basic digital skills. So it mirrors lots of real websites and allows people to try new things and nudges them in the right direction if they're not quite doing it in the way to achieve the desired outcome. Trying to keep it up to date as much as possible. So there's a new topic on there about an introduction to AI, for example. So I'd be really interested to know what you guys think about that. Our team are always happy to receive feedback, our learning team that design the content for that, or if there's other topics that you'd like to see or that would be really useful for people who experience dementia and so on, that would be really good for us to know. Next slide. Before I leave you, just wanted to include a few other links and leads, I suppose, and these will go out on the slides afterwards. So we have worked together with a member of our network, Healy Development Trust, to come up with a guide. It was using lots of their experience and tips about digital for people living with dementia. So they've put that in an online guide. We recently took part in a seminar series with Health and Wellbeing Alliance, lots of different organisations that make that up, and talked about designing for digital inclusion in healthcare. So if you want to watch any of those sessions back, they're all linked and you'll find them on our website. And finally, we do work a bit, we have a partnership with LOTI, the London Office of Technology and Innovation. And we weren't directly involved in this, but I just noticed on their website that they had been doing a pilot around supporting dementia care toolkit. So I've just linked that there in case anyone wants to investigate that a bit further, because they've put some learnings up from that, which are really interesting. That was it from me. I think the next slide is just our contact details. Thank you very much for having me along today and allowing me to give my overview. have we got any time for questions? Do you think, Emily?
Oh, that was really great. Thank you, Bryony. Really helpful. Lots of links. Get onto the website. Look at those digital skills, free support offers. Somebody's put on the chat. It's been well advertised on the TV at the moment. I can't remember. I do remember the advert, but I can't remember what it was saying.
Yeah, so O2 is one of the companies that donate data into the data bank, and they've included it in their Christmas campaign this year. And obviously they have a lot of reach that we wouldn't have, so we're quite pleased about that. And they're also able to give out the SIMs from the data bank and data bundles through their O2 stores, as well as the network of non-profit organisations as well in the National Digital Inclusion Network. So that's where you might have seen it.
So organisations can access services like the data bank through the O2 stores. Where else?
Yeah, so organisations can come to us directly and say, we're working with lots of people that will need this data, and then we can give the organisation SIM cards and data bundles and everything that they need to get started, and they can gift it out directly to people then. But yeah, there's also that map that shows existing places that can accept referrals of individuals and the O2 stores. So, you know, if someone heard about this on TV or from an organisation and wasn't sure where to get a SIM card, I'd say that map is the right place for them to go. It shows the O2 stores and it shows libraries, it shows citizens advice bureaus, and so people could pick where was kind of best for them, where they felt most comfortable going to access that.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Lots of angles covered there. Well done. I'm going to have to move on because I think we're about 10 minutes behind, so that's my bad. We're going to move on to Ben Williams from Care City, and he's going to talk to us about Dorothy, and I think there's a short video and then a couple of slides. So over to Ben.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, so I'm Ben Williams. I'm the head of innovation at an organization called Care City. So we work with different innovators and designers and creators to see how products or services would work to help people's lives in real life, whether in health or social care. We're designed to help improve and promote healthier lives. So when I'm thinking about technology, especially regards to dementia, we often find is that it's really designed to not necessarily help the person living with dementia. It seems to be about technology designed to help other people. So you might have a geofencing watch to alert families if a person has gone further away than they would wish to, or door sensors that alert staff. And when I was working for a care provider and we were talking about different technologies and what things would be suitable and what would work, people would often say to me, yeah, you can put in whatever you want into the home. I don't really care, but show me what it says. Tell me what my data is telling you. I want to know firsthand what's happening. So I was really excited when we got to find out about Dorothy. So let's have a look at a video. It will be on the next slide, and we'll see if we can watch that together.
Might not be doing that, but then as soon as you came back with some
When you get a dementia, the most common type that you're likely to get is an Alzheimer's type dementia. And one of the things that you tend to lose is the ability to find things in your own home, to navigate places, and to communicate that need. And that's why we created Dorothy.
Well, the Dorothy app is a little bit like Google Maps, but the kind of indoor version. So you use a tablet device, and tablet devices have got a camera, and you use the camera to kind of map out a physical space, and it turns it into a virtual map that you can then navigate a physical space in.
I got to try out the Dorothy app with its sort of augmented reality aspects, and it was everything that you wanted from that kind of app. It was simple, accessible, it worked, and it was fun. It got me to where I needed to go, and so I was really impressed.
I think there are several wonderful things about Dorothy. First of all, it's incredibly simple. It provides the opportunity for people to find their way around places when actually their mind no longer does that for them.
So the Dorothy community, I guess, is our vision to take the Dorothy app to much more public spaces. And we've been testing it, including like helping people to go and see their friends at a local cafe. We've been experimenting and testing it in really difficult places like hospitals that have got really kind of complex corridors that need to be navigated. And we've also been testing it in museums and even most recently, the Wembley Stadium itself.
I believe in 20 years' time, just as a venue wouldn't be seen as being accessible without wheelchair access, without help for people who are hard of hearing. So the Dorothy app could be a standard part of any venue's access provision.
I find Dorothy really exciting because it does two very important things. It improves productivity in the health service by increasing the amount of assistive technology that's there, but much more importantly, it increases the amount of dignity and independence that older people have got.
We want to give people with dementia agency and autonomy. We want to make that journey that they have every day as easy as possible, and we want them, when they go somewhere, to feel, yes, I can do this. No, I'm not being discriminated against. And this is the best route for me to enjoy my day.
So if you could go to the slides, that would be fantastic. So we got Dorothy. It was designed to work in care homes. It was designed primarily for care homes to help people get around. So what we wanted to do then was take it out of the care homes and get it into everywhere else. So we tried to make sure that we spoke to a whole different wide group of people. Can we have the next slide, please? So Peter, as it says there, it uses high contrast icons. There we go, research. So we spoke to a whole different group of people from different backgrounds. We tried different ages, different types of dementia, and people with different life experiences. And we asked them and tried to find them where they wanted to go. Sorry, it's just getting a bit loud in here. Sorry, could we have the next slide, please? There we go. So the first thing we wanted to do was find out where people wanted to go and find out where they wanted to visit and how they wanted to get there. Could we have the next slide, please? So we try to test Dorothy in lots of different places, such as at the museum and at the hospital. Real-world testing really helps you to break a device, test out what doesn't work and what does work. For example, when we were at the hospital, we found out that Dorothy didn't work in some corridors, and we weren't too sure. We spoke to the senior team, the IT team. No one knew why. But when we spoke to the security guards, we found out that actually the hospital has signal scammers in the X-ray machine room. And although we weren't going into those rooms, the corridors nearby those rooms cut off all Wi-Fi and phone signal in those corridors. So these are the sort of things you learn when you do real-world testing. Can we have the next slide, please? But it's not just about where people wanted to go. We also wanted to make sure that people were able to feel and have the experience so that they would feel comfortable in visiting these spaces. So we tried to see what would encourage that confidence and what would build up that confidence so that they'd be more likely to go back to these places. So we looked at the whole journey of someone going from start to beginning. Can we have the next slide, please? So here we have one of our testers, Cloyda, and when people found out that they could navigate for themselves, they didn't need someone's support. They didn't need permission from someone else. Oh, can you help me to get to here, there? That they could just pick up the device and go where they wanted. It really made a complete difference for them. It really built up their confidence. And Cloyda loved the fact that it could tell you where you could go to use the facilities, then come back to her table where she was having lunch with her friend at the cafe. So that's part of the aspect. If we could have a look at the next slide, please. We also had a look at the design and tried to make sure that we use high contrast icons that really be able to help people to access and navigate the space. But also, when we look at this, it's a tablet device, it's a tablet-based device. So how do we interact with giving that information to people? Can we have the next slide? Well, we tested in lots of different ways, being able to project the image onto glasses. We tried hearing aids, we tried masks and stands, a whole different ways of testing ways for people to interact with this technology. Could we have the next slide, please? What we found was the most popular was this gooseneck holder that held a tablet round the neck to give the people free hands to be able to move around. And people also liked having just a tablet with extra handles on the side of it. So those proves to be the most popular ways of navigating with Dorothy. On the next slide, we have another 5-minute video, but I'll let you guys watch that in your own time when you get the slides. It's about someone going around a manor house and testing out and using it, so you get to see the use case for it. But could we have, thank you. So the question is, well, what's next? We actually got to this stage because we were part of the Longitude Prize. We were a semi-finalist. We didn't get through to the final, unfortunately. I guess that we were a bit too innovative. But let me show you what we were working on for the next stages of Dorothy. As you can tell, a gooseneck was really popular. As popular as it still is quite ungainly, and people have to focus on a screen and then look at their surroundings. So what we tried to do is we created a hands-free voice-activated device that a person can wear like a lanyard, and that projects arrows and a pathway directly onto the floor below someone, so they can go and they can see where they need to be. So this is the device that we have and that we're working on next. It uses that same technology, but uses that same thing. Thank you. So so that's taking us through the presentation. Please have a look through the slides, see the videos. In fact, today we just have a video on Wembley, our trip to Wembley, that's been uploaded, and I'll try and put that in the notes as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really interesting, Ben, and it's fascinating about all the different accessibility sort of functions around the neck, the glasses, the stand, etc. What would work best, do you think, for housing providers? Or what scenarios would work best?
Well, we would try to use this situation where if someone has dementia, they're moving into a new environment, it's a new care home, or it's a new space that they're not familiar with, then the idea of Dorothy is that it can help them navigate and find out where the toilets are, where the kitchen is, and where the spaces are within their own homes. So that, in fact, that's exactly how it was originally designed. The designer who built this whole thing built it for his grandfather, who moved into his home with him, and he was seeing how confused he was getting and upset he was getting about not being able to find where are the knives and forks. So having those features in, and it just provides that reassurance to the person that they can go around and find those spaces. So
Yeah.
new people moving into new homes.
Perfect. Really, really interesting. There's loads of questions which we'll hold fire for the Q&A. Got to move on, I'm afraid. I'm going to take us now to Alex from AbilityNet. I hope you're there, Alex.
I certainly am.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Okay, so this slide should say how tech can support people with dementia. So if you could move on, please. Next slide. So I'm Alex Barker. I'm the disability consultant for AbilityNet, and you might not know who we are, so let me tell you. AbilityNet supports people of any age living with any disability or impairment to use technology to achieve their goals at home, at work, and in education. And we do this by providing specialist advice services, free information resources, and we want to help to build a more accessible digital world. Next slide, please. So we have lots of free resources, and everyone likes a freebie, don't they? So we have over 500 volunteers who can solve IT issues either remotely or face-to-face. We can provide fact sheets and webinars and how-to guides on our website. We sometimes have devices given to us by tech companies, and we give them to worthy causes and community support groups. And we've also got lots of news and blogs on our website where we update them on a regular basis. Next slide, please. So, a little bit about me. So, I've worked for AbilityNet for 22 years in 2 periods. I've got a rare condition called Meader's syndrome. I only have 2 fingers on each hand. I've got a paralysed face and I cannot show emotion. And technology has really changed my life. And I think one of the reasons why I can talk to people in a certain way and how you realise how technology can change their lives is it's basically changed mine. And I think sometimes if you have a lived experience, you put that lived experience into your work. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are many different apps that you can use to help you if you've got dementia. So you've got Iridis, which is basically a monitoring app if you've got dementia, and basically it gives you some ideas of it gives you some ideas of being able to log your day-to-day experiences to see whether the dementia is getting worse or staying the same. There are some brain training games. There's an app called SingFit. So everyone knows that if you've got dementia, one of the ways of helping yourself is by singing. And SingFit is an app. The app on the right-hand side I love, and I need to try it out. It's basically a fish tank, a virtual fish tank. So you can see little fish and other, I don't know, pond animals just wandering around in a tank. And this is supposed to help people who might be anxious. I would love one of these because I used to have a fish tank and got a bit tired of having to clean out all the water every other week. Not a very nice job. Next slide, please. I want to talk to you about smart technology because I think smart technology can be really useful for someone who's got Alzheimer's. I'm not going to go through each one. I'm just going to pick a couple out. So there are some smart light bulbs. So for example, at 3 o'clock today, it got dark or it was getting dark. And if I had some light bulbs connected up to my Alexa, they would go on. And they can help someone tell the difference between whether it's night and day. I'm aware that some people have real issues with that. And the other thing is I might forget to turn the light off downstairs when I come to bed. If it was connected to Alexa or a smart plug, I could say, okay, Alexa, turn the downstairs lights off at 10:30, because by 10:30 we're probably in bed. There's all sorts of things like coffee makers and smart door locks. But what I would say is that everyone is different and there's no one size fits all solution. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are a number of phones available, and I really like the idea of phones that are designed with people with dementia in mind. So, for example, we've got the flip phone, we've got phones that can get remote support, and we've got a phone called the HAPPI phone. And basically, HAPPI are a company that are going out of their way to design phones that are really, really simple to use for someone who's got dementia or for someone who's got other disabilities, or perhaps for an elderly person. So, for example, you can get rid of all unwanted apps. You've just got one or two screens, and it just makes it a lot easier to do what you need to do. And the best thing is that you can get remote support. So if someone is having difficulty using their phone, say for example, my dad or mum are having difficulty using their phone, they can talk to me and I can provide remote support and assistance of my own back. The other thing is there are watches available with GPS locators. I'm really aware of the difficulties that some people have when they've got dementia. They may wander off, and if they've got a phone, they've got to take the actual phone with them. But if they have a watch and they put it on all of the time, there's a better chance of them actually taking the watch with them because it's strapped around their wrist. Next slide, please. There's no such thing as the best technology. The technology is really, really specific to one person. I can tell you what the best chocolate biscuit is, and it's a broad one, but I can't tell you what the best technology is. Next slide, please. So a lot of our queries are related to funding, and we can't give funding, unfortunately. If we did, that would be all that we would do. We can point people towards our funding fact sheet, but we don't have the ability to help clients apply for funding. And someone needs to help the client apply for funding, and it can often be a long-term process. Next slide, please. So this is what our volunteers can do. So they can fix internet connectivity issues, they can sort out printer issues, they can update antivirus software, they can give the basic support on email, internet use, and so on. They can reassure clients, they can get smart tech set up, and they can set up mobile phones and landlines within reason. We are also doing quite a lot of work with the Digital Voice project that you heard about earlier, and we can also support people with digital voice. Next slide, please. That's how to make a referral. Easiest way is to drop us an email to inquiries@abilitynet.org.uk, or to drop us or to call us on 0300 180 0028. Next slide, please. That's obviously how to contact us. One of the things that I want to make clear is that we are here not just to support the individual with dementia. We are also here to support their carers and friends. We realise how important that being a carer is, but we also realise that you may have a great skill set, your knowledge as a carer is brilliant, but your knowledge about IT and technology may not so. So we are here to support the carer and the individual with dementia. And I think that is the end of my presentation. So if anyone's got any questions, I would love to take them quickly.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex, and thank you for getting us some time back. The organisation AbilityNet is a fantastic organisation, and all the work that your volunteers do it's just amazing. And you know, Bourbons, I don't know, you might have created a bit of a debate about the best biscuit. I quite like a Kit Kat myself, but that could be a chocolate bar, couldn't it?
Kit Kats are always good.
Quick question. How can technology change when the person living with dementia's needs change? How do we keep up to date?
It's a really interesting question. So a good example might be that, say for example, you've got young onset dementia. You might just be, I don't know, 25 or 35, and you might have got an iPhone, and you might have had that iPhone for absolutely ages. As your condition progresses, your cognitive ability might decline. When your cognitive ability declines, you might want to actually look at different phones. You might want to look at a different interface. Or, for example, you know, we were talking about certain bits of technology. You might have difficulties reading. Well, you can use a smartphone to have text read out to you with an app called Seeing AI. So as you change, technology can change with you. But what I would always say is that it might be difficult to look 6 months down the line, but it's always a good idea to be a bit fluid about the way you think about technology. Don't get to a state where you're in a bit of difficulty, then you want to know what technology is available. Get some advice, and if you think you're going to be a lot worse in 6 months or 12 months, ask those questions now. Otherwise, you'll be 12 months down the line and you'll be stuck because you haven't got the right technology in place. And sometimes it's really hard to think about that, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's almost predicting the future, but you can't. But that's fantastic advice. Yes, absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Alex. And we're going to move on just to have a few words, if I may, from Ruth. Ruth, are you there?
I am. Yes. Can you see me?
Fantastic.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Ruth Ely, and I chair Together in Dementia Every Day, which is a charity that works with current and former carers, people with dementia. And I'm tied as a member of the Dementia and Housing Working Group. I think probably for about 10 years now, but time
I will unlock the door.
So I just want to tell you a little bit about the Dementia and Housing Working Group, which has organised this webinar for you. We think we are the only national group that's focused on housing and dementia. And we bring together a wide range of volunteer stakeholders. I stress volunteer because we have no dedicated staff resource. So we're all doing this because we think it's important. And that group includes housing providers, professionals, trade bodies, voluntary organisations like Tide, academic researchers and the health sector. And the important thing about us is that we're not a talking shop. We believe in action. And I think we've got quite a good track record of producing some real outcomes for people. The reason that we all came together is that we recognise the significant role of the housing sector in enabling people with dementia to live independently in a suitable home environment in the way that they want to meet their needs and aspirations. And we also know from experience that the sector is often omitted in strategic discussions about dementia, and that they may not have a seat at the table, whether that's locally, regionally or nationally. And with the new ICBs, it's interesting to see how many of them are actually including housing in their discussions and their deliberations. Not all of them, I suspect. So what do? We meet quarterly and we focus on 3 strands: information, insight and influence. So here's a snapshot of what we do. So for information, through events like today, we share best practice. We bring people together from different perspectives to share experiences and what works, and to ask some challenging questions. We have a Padlet with a directory of resources, and I'm hoping that Ali might be able to put in the chat what that link is, because I don't have it to hand. And we produce guidance on specific topics. In terms of insight, we encourage training for housing staff in understanding the needs of people with dementia and responding appropriately. And often, again, housing staff are often not included in training opportunities. For ourselves, we're developing a much better understanding of inclusion and diversity in the housing sector, and we've worked hard to have a diverse range of contributors at our various webinars, and we're very grateful to the people who've contributed to this. In terms of influence, we try and respond to government initiatives in health and housing and care so that the needs of people living with dementia are recognised, supported and resourced. We have a good relationship with the APPG, and we align their recommendations to relevant national and regional policy. For example, we've developed a role specification for board level dementia champions, which was an APPG recommendation, to encourage strategic leadership for dementia in the housing sector. So the aim of the group isn't to accumulate more members, but it's to have representation across relevant bodies and organisations, and for all members to use our contacts and networks to spread the word. And I think we're quite good at that. The reason we've been able to get a diverse group together today is because of our networks and our contacts. We have to be realistic about what we can do, because as I've said, we haven't got any dedicated staff resource, but we think we fill a significant gap and make a valuable contribution to helping to improve the lives of people with dementia and their carers. So if you are interested and you think that you can bring a new perspective or a different perspective to the group, then please get involved and come and join us.
Thank you, Ruth. That's brilliant. I'm going to just see how, we have lots of time for questions, 15 minutes at the very least. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a question for Peter. Because it's Christmas time, what piece of dementia-friendly technology would you recommend for the best Christmas present?
Or this year, you know, it's a brave new dementia world, isn't it? And a brave new AI world. And I see Dave is nodding like mad because there's a tsunami of different products coming on the market. But for me, I think one of the most useful things possibly would be, because I'm always losing things, geotags now are very small. You can pick up ones that, you know, you can recharge and they'll last the whole year. You can get flat ones that will fit in your wallet or your purse. Fantastic. As well as ones that you can attach to most things now. And as long as they're within Bluetooth range of any device anywhere in the world, you can locate your device. And they work with things like Google Home and the Apple equivalent. So they're easy to use and easy to just augment what you're already using. And they're cheap too. So you know, get me a couple of those for earrings, and I'll never be lost wherever I am. So for me, that will be the simple, fun thing to have for Christmas.
Brilliant idea. And how much are they approximately?
You can pick one up for £30 on Amazon, and I dare say you can get them a lot cheaper because other shops are available.
Absolutely. There was a question on the chat as well about Peter's thoughts on tech being available soon after diagnosis of dementia. I always feel that if tech were introduced early, this would enable longevity of use. Often tech is provided far too late down the line in someone's journey. And so do you think referral pathways into tech provision, often from adult social care departments after receiving that diagnosis, would be helpful or better?
Good question. And yeah, very much so. And not just for the tech itself, but for the fact that learning to use that tech keeps you alert and aware. And that keeps the dementia wolf at bay. As far as I'm concerned, it's my interest in tech and mastering new skills and things that helps to keep me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah. Perfect answer. Well done. Yeah. I'm going to move to Dahi. Can you, here's a question. Ian Hanton has mentioned, Dahi, can you talk to my council, please?
Oh, I'm happy to.
I knew you would.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm an open book. I'm a pensioner. I've got time on my hands, you know. Pete Middleton is my new best friend and all. This has been thrilling, this information sharing and all, because we all are in it together, you know. So absolutely, I'll leave it to you and your colleagues to share my email with anyone. I do have to be careful, of course, because of my trans non-binary status. There are people who want to erase my identity. We know this, you know. So I've found a safe harbor here in Flanders and all. My carers, my doctors, that they've been trained how. Oh wait, I dropped. Oh, anyway. I've got lots of show and tell resources, you know, to share. So let's do that together.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And another comment from Claire. There is a really good conversationalist AI assistant called Pi, P-I, and it's free. Don't know if you've come across that. No.
I'm not familiar with it, but free is good. Free is good.
Okay. Thank you. Brian E. Let me just see. Claire's also mentioned for Brian. There's a lack of services, voluntary organisations that can visit people in their own homes and set up and onboard people with digital devices and smart tech like voice assistants. We find that it is a real issue here in Somerset. Is there anyone you know that can address that?
We could definitely have a look at the map and see if there's anyone we can suggest.
Yes.
Another thing is we do have small grants available from time to time of sort of £6,000 figure. The next ones hopefully will be in springtime. So also if anyone's got any kind of good ideas about how to use that and wants to join the network and apply for one of those to kind of provide that service, I suppose, if it's something that might be missing and needs a bit of funding, then do keep an eye out for them as well. But I'm going to go and have a look on the map now and see if I
I
can
was
find
just going to say that we do have one volunteer in Somerset. I mean, one of the difficulties is in some rural counties, it's just quite hard to get volunteers, but we would want to work with any organisations who are based in Somerset because, you know, there are people in the areas just crying out for someone to come and support them, aren't they? So it's all about working collaboratively with other organisations.
Brilliant, Claire. There you are, AbilityNet. Reach out to them. There's a question also for Bryony. Would you allow water companies to join so they can distribute the Good Things Foundation? Oh, for the Good Things Foundation. We receive many disclosures of digital exclusion, loneliness and isolation, and as an essential utility provider, it is likely we will communicate with each customer at least once a year.
Yeah, and thanks Anne from Links Digital, who I see is here as well, who we work with really closely. So thanks for adding to that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's mainly not-profit organisations that kind of join the network and gift them out. But of course, we want to collaborate with everyone we possibly can to make sure that everyone's finding out about these services. So if you pop us an email, we could definitely set up a conversation and talk about how that would work best.
Perfect. Well done. Will do. Okay, Ben, questions for you. The Dorothy app, the handheld tablet version, how has that worked in terms of risks of falls? I feel a bit concerned that they will be so focused on their yellow brick road that they may not spot any trip hazards. You may cover this, so yeah, I don't know.
This was one of the key concerns that we had when we first saw the technology, and actually we tried a whole different route. We had the iPad on a stand that someone could wheel around with them, so they could take with them a bit like you see in hospitals where they have the IV thing on a stand. And sometimes you would see we tried lots of different ways, but actually I think it being completely hands-free is the best way to go, and for it to be projected onto the floor, that's really what we want to get through. That's going to completely remove the risk of falls if it's projected on the floor. So that's what we were hoping to do with the next stage with the Longitude Prize. But we're looking for other alternative funding now to get that to happen.
Perfect. Okay. Technology apps and devices are a great add-on to support people to live more full and rewarding lives. However, this can only be facilitated with human contact and emotional support. As an architect, designers need to be more responsive and educated in understanding dementia. Should the government not legislate through building control to ensure design is more focused on supporting and ensuring buildings and homes are adaptive? What's your thoughts?
Personally, I would say that the M standards 1 to 4 are not legally required for each architect to actually go through. So I think it's really shocking and surprising that in 2024 that we still had this issue where architects and designers. I had a person who was an interior designer say to me, but where could I go to find such standards about how to make a dementia inclusive design? And you think, well, there's so much provided. So yeah, I think there needs to be more legislation as regards to making sure that those standards for architects and designers need to be higher. So there's a basic qualification that if you are creating spaces for anyone's homes, they should be able to be considered before you can actually be qualified to be able to do that job. And I think the RNAB is looking at Royal Society of British Architects, RIBA, that's it, are looking at these standards, but yeah.
Okay. But more work to do. Thank you for that. That's well good answered. And Alex, what about technology in supporting carers of people living with dementia? How can you help there? Are you there? Look, are you on mute? No? Have we lost you, Alex? Possibly. Right, we'll move on, unless you can give us a shout. Okay, so what are key challenges for both users and providers in the housing sector? Let's think about housing providers' challenges and how we can overcome them. Anyone want to take that? I might just pick on someone. Ben, what about you? Can you take that one?
I think a lot of the problems we have these days is knowing that the technology providers are going to be around in so many years' time. So you might have a system that they come in and say, this is a great idea, this is a great piece of technology kit, we have this sensor equipment. But yeah, firstly, are they going to still be around in a few years' time to be able to deliver that material? But then also, is the data they're going to be giving, can we guarantee that it's going to be something that's going to be given to the individual rather than just sit on a data server and never be analyzed or not used for anyone? I think this is the problem we see again and again, is that data is being collected now with these sensors, but it's really hard to interpret the data, and especially for the person who it's for. So we need to make sure that if you are a provider, that there's a terms of agreement that you will provide for the people that you're gathering the information on.
Yeah, great. Pete, did you have your hand up?
Briefly, yeah, but I think we've touched upon it, because I think we must insist on standards. We must insist that manufacturers have common standards. They always keep talking about it like a nirvana that never happens. You know, even it's only in the last 6 months you've been able to use the same plug to charge your Apple phone and your Samsung phone, and it's the same with connective technology everywhere. So if I go into somebody's house, I may not be able to use their tech. If I bring it from my house, you know, things have got to be transferable, I think, and people need to. Somebody needs to chivvy these providers into making that happen.
Yes, absolutely. Common standards. What I think we need to do is wrap up in a minute. But I wonder if you could put the last slide up for us, Jerome. It just reinforces the webinars that we've done already and one that we hope to do in the future. But while you're doing that, I'm going to ask you all one quick sentence answer, please, from you all, and I'll take you in the order that you've spoken today. What is the one thing you would urge everyone to do when they leave this webinar to improve the understanding and access to dementia-friendly technology? So one thing you would urge everyone to do when they leave the webinar, one take home. I'll start with you, Peter.
Goodness me, no pressure then.
No pressure.
You know, you should leave here and be acolytes, you know, help us by shouting from the rooftops about how important this is to all people with disability, not just people living with dementia. Inclusion and working with us to design and to fix the world and make it friendly.
Brilliant. Make it friendly. Dahi, you next.
Well, this, first of all, this webinar has been better than the Barbie movie. It's that fabulous. Thank you so much for all of it. It was great. And what an opportunity we've had to break through ableism and paternalism, and there's a lot of good intentions around dementia care, you know, but as Pete and I can probably attest, you know, we still have our voices, you know. Let's use them and find creative ways, you know, to listen and support not just us, but all of our loved ones and all of us together and all. And that's what today is. Ruth was an absolute inspiration, Brioni, everyone on this panel. And well, anyway, thank you so much, and happy festive season to everyone. It was fabulous.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Ben, last sentence from you, not last, but a sentence from you.
There are a huge amount of resources available from Dementia Housing Working Group and HAPPI and the HousingLIN. If you want to make sure that your facilities support people with dementia, there are resources for you. You're not alone.
Absolutely. Don't recreate the wheel. Alex, if we can hear you, Alex. Might not be able to. I'll take Ruth then. Ruth, any final word?
Okay. Well, I'm going to pick up something that Alex said, which was get help early. And I think I'd broaden that to everybody to get yourself up to speed, find out what's out there. Don't wait for a crisis, whether you're a housing provider, a social worker, whatever, or somebody with dementia and a carer. Get help early and information, because information is power. And I think that's crucial for this debate.
Absolutely. Thank you. Sorry we couldn't hear from Alex. I don't know what's happened. So yeah, we need to leave it there. We need the government to make dementia a priority. I don't know how long we've been saying that, and make technology more available to people that need it and want it. There are barriers, but we can overcome them together. So thank you for all of our fantastic speakers and to the HousingLIN for hosting us. And if you'd like to get involved, please feel free to get in touch. There have been, there we go, they're on the screen now, 3 now webinars, which please have a look at, and the next one hopefully will be in March on faith. And I'm going to leave you with our final word from Nigel Hula, who's the chair of the 3 Nations Dementia Working Group. And he says, if you get it right for people living with dementia, you get it right for everyone. Thank you.